thought Lucas was doing this intro, but he seems to have left us. So let's crack on, eh? So he's gone to North. He told me mid-worship. That is not as organised as we normally expect to be. So, right, so as Lucas said, we're going to talk about up, in and out. So, what time are we on? 10 past. So yeah, we're talking about up, in and out, and these three areas that kind of we think kind of are really speaking to us as a church about discipleship are relationship up with God and what that means to kind of really connect with God and have that intimacy. Our relationship in with kind of the community, with each other, what it means to have a strong community of believers. But today we're looking at kind of out and what it means to interact with the kind of world out there, the people who don't know anything about this Jesus that we just sang about. And so that is what we're going to be looking at today. And we live in a world which can often be kind of filled with bad news. And, you know, we read the newspapers, we watch the news, and it's tough. You know, life is difficult and life is grim and all of the headlines are difficult. And I was picking up a certain American lady who's visiting on Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. And I was there in an airport, obviously filled with joy to see this beautiful lady. But the person next to me, who was waiting for her husband, filled with less joy, fair to say. And so she kind of, they came out and, you know, obviously her husband was out and getting his bags and he rang her, obviously to say, look, we've landed, I'm here. And her first question was was the flight rubbish? I was like, oh man, you are coming to a woman filled with joy, as we've just sang. And she was like, was your flight rubbish? And then they had a bit of a chat. And then she said, I bet you can't find your luggage either. I was like, this is wonderful. And then she's like, yeah, no, I have had breakfast. I had a rubbish croissant. And I was like, I just wanted to hug the lady. I was like, it's all right. It's all right. Life doesn't have to be as bad. And the guy had obviously said, we can do this. And she said, you're not going to be able to do anything. You're going to be knackered all day. And I was like, enjoy your morning, mate, when you get off that plane, because it is tough for some people, life. But I believe that we can be a good news people. You know, that life is difficult. None of us are saying life is easy for people. But you know what? I believe that the kingdom of God calls us to be a good news people. And just as the news out there is difficult and tough and all the things that make the headlines are bad, we're going to look at the thing that I'm going to call it today. It's called going viral. Because every now and then, there's something stupid and pointless a video you watch or a meme that you see, and you just and everyone shares it, and it goes around, and it's just these moments of joy. And so we are going to start with 3 of my favorite YouTube videos, because why the heck not? And so this is the first one. Oh, that is a seal hitting a man with an octopus. Come on, who doesn't want? I mean, you've got to question your life when you are kayaking. I mean, you've got to question your life when you're kayaking. We could stop there. But instead of being indoors, it goes out, and then a seal thinks, I'm not having you, fella, comes up, somehow teams up with an octopus. I don't know if the octopus is dead or alive, unconfirmed. And, that looks pretty dead. Bang, there you go, get out of my waters. So that was a good one. I enjoyed that one. The second one, we've had enough seals. Second one is my favourite. Come on, I mean, that says a lot about who you are. The level that you laugh at that, I mean, I have seen that 7,000 times. Never gets old. Never gets old. But the one that went viral probably a year or 2 ago that most of you will know from the BBC News, one more. Oh, there we go. Is this man here? Oh, yeah, in the UK, we like this man. Trying to give his news opinion at home. Trying to swipe his child in the face.
Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited.
Completely got away with it. I don't think anyone noticed. On national news, brilliant. Kind of a big day for me, dear. Can you just keep the kids away for a minute? No, you can't. No, you can't. And so we have a message to share, and we're going to talk about going viral. And we don't mean going viral online and videos, and we can talk about that, but I'm not here to kind of say, let's have a faith that if some of us can produce loads of media content, then maybe we can share it with our friends. You know, if you've got a gifting in that area, great. But I think we're going to look at the story in the Bible of how it was meant to go almost from person to person to person. You know, it wasn't about kind of putting this big message out there that hopefully people would click on and read and all this kind of stuff. But actually the gospel went from people going and speaking to people loving people, and the message of the gospel sharing that way. Jesus in Matthew 13 talks about different pictures of the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven. And one of them he shares is, he says it's like a mustard seed where you plant it and it like takes over the whole garden. And he says it's like this small thing that you just plant, and out of nowhere it just grows and takes over. And you know what? Many of us work in normal jobs. And you know what? We might be these kind of one seed, the only Christian in our workplace, that we go in there. The heart is that we go and we spread a message and a gospel that's different. And that, you know what? That message spreads through our workplaces, through our families. That actually through that, this life-giving message takes over and transforms life. And that is the kind of good news that we want to be speaking of. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're looking at ordinary people. So if we turn to the passage, or it'll be on the screen, you don't need to turn to the passage. We're going to look at Luke 10. And so Jesus sends out kind of the disciples in Luke 10, and this is the first time they go on mission. Okay, and so this is where Jesus sends people out. And so we'll read this, and so it says, can I come down a little bit? I feel very loud. You can argue that's me. Luke 10, 1-9 says, after this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and every place he was about to go. He told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Go, I am sending you like lambs among wolves. Don't take a purse or a bag or sandals. Don't greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, peace to this house. If someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Don't move from house to house. And when you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what is offered to you. Heal the sick that are there and tell them the kingdom of God has come near to you. And so that is the kind of passage that we're going to be looking at. That's where we're basing it. Jesus sends these people out on mission. And as we know, as we've talked about before, the disciples are just a bunch of ordinary people, you know, that have got normal jobs, that have left those and that have followed him. They're not the best 12, they're not the best expert, but this isn't even the 12. You know, this isn't even if you say, yeah, but they are the elite, they've been with Jesus. This is the 72. This is a wider community, people who've been around Jesus, some of them for a few weeks, some of them maybe for a year, and they are just ordinary people. And he sends them out, okay? And so the first thing is like, he's not looking for ministry experts. There are people in this room who are excellent at kind of evangelism, who've got a real gift in knowing what it is to kind of go in and share the gospel. And they're just so good at it, and it's so natural to some of you. And there are other of us in here that it's more difficult, you know? And what we're not doing is saying, well, okay, what we need to do is we'll let the good people do it, and the rest of us, we can do something else. Like on that video, it said, some people are often good at 2 things, like the up or the in, and not so good at the out, or the up and the out, not so good at the in, or whatever. We don't just leave the evangelism to the people who are good at it. You know, we want to be people who know what it is to go out into our families, into our workplaces, and just be able to talk to them about this Jesus that we believe in. And you know what? I don't get to ring up Pete Clark and say, Pete, I'm in work, right, in Liverpool, and I've got a guy who sits with me, and I find it difficult to speak to him about Jesus. Can you just come in and speak to him? Because Pete would. But that's not how it works. That's not the deal. You know, Jesus calls this team of ordinary people, and he sends them out. If we look at kind of verse 2 and 3, if we flip back to the start, Rob, so you'll see he sends them out 2 by 2. So you're used to following Jesus in a crowd, you're used to being with him, and now he isolates you 2 by 2. And I don't know, but if I was just with this one person, and I'd be like, you know, let's say it's you and the famous disciple Jeff. And so you and Jeff were kind of there, and you looked at him and you're like, oh boy, how are we going to do this? I don't know. I'll tell you what, Jeff, you're going to speak first. I'll be your assistant. I'll encourage you. It must have been terrifying. Like, you've been so used to following Jesus and listening to Jesus, and now he sends you out, 2 of you. And the thing that they needed to do is they just needed to obey. You know, like, because as we're going to see, it wasn't about their strength. It's not about their power. But there is an element where God calls us all to go. There is an element where we have to obey, where Jesus says, you need to go. You know what, like, it is God who changes hearts. It is Jesus who changes lives. It isn't just our good words and our arguments, but you know what, he still calls us to go and engage and cross that awkward barrier and speak to people about this life, about this God that we know. In verse 3 and 4, it's on there, like on this one, he then says, don't take a purse or a bag or any sandals. Don't take any stuff, you know, just go. And like, some of us maybe in our workplaces, we feel ill-equipped. We feel like Maybe we haven't got the answers. We haven't got the tools in the locker. What if somebody asks us a difficult question and we can't answer it? Do you know what? Sometimes when we talk to people who don't know God, we're going to lose an argument. Right? And some of us need to get over that. Some of us need to not be concerned with winning arguments all the time. Because you know what? People just need to know there's a Jesus who's real. And if they have a good point and you don't know an answer, that's all right. Because these people need to know that they're loved by God. They don't need some smart aleck who reckons they've got all the answers. Like, we do need to be able to talk and help people with those. But you know, I've had arguments with people, and sometimes people just want an argument, and sometimes people are genuinely interested and really wrestling with issues. And so there's this bit at the bottom on the next slide, Rob, where it says, like, when you enter a house, say peace to this house, and if someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. And you know what, there's this thing called people of peace, where it's kind of just saying, like, people who are really open and ready. And you know the people who ask the questions sometimes who are just thinking, I just want to know, I don't know this, will you help me understand it? Or the people who are just looking for a fight. And you know, if you want to duke up and fight some people about the gospel, good on you. Some people do that online. I couldn't be less interested with getting in arguments and comments on Facebook. But if you want to do that, that's fine. But like, there are people in your life that will be asking questions, not because they want an argument, because they're just wrestling with stuff. You know what? And we want to be people who say, God, who's ready? Who's searching for you? Because you know what? God is working on the hearts of the people around you more than we will know. Like, he's doing stuff and speaking stuff in ways that we have no clue whatsoever. Like, I've told some of you this story before, but I spoke to a friend this week, and I knew I was going to be mentioning it, so I just sent her a few messages, and we had a really kind of good conversation back about just kind of life. And when I was at university, like, when I was 18, I was 18, and I was sat with my bunch of 12 guys trying to tell them about Jesus and failing and struggling, and they would ask me questions, and I'd try and give good answers, and they would argue me back, and I was just kind of doing my best, and it was difficult. And you've all heard stories of me and my Geordie housemates, and I'm going to look away from Annette Taylor because she's going to get annoyed in case I insult the Northeast, which is a lovely place filled with lovely people. But they can be terrifying. Just all I'm saying, he was a 20-stone Geordie man called Beef. Don't mess with that matter line. So I'm sat next to Beef, who's the kind of guy that when you stole a chip, like a mate went, I'm just going to take one of your chips, grabbed him, and he jabbed his fork in his hand, and the fork was just stuck in this guy's hand, and he was like, what have you done? And the Beef just calmly grabbed the guy's fork who'd stolen the chip and carried on eating. That's who I had to minister to, and so it was difficult. And so out of nowhere, this one girl came up to this group of 12 of us sat at lunch, and she just said, like, we were just chatting away, she just waited, and she just came up to me, she said, Del, are you a Christian? And everyone went silent, because that's an awkward question out of nowhere. And I went, yeah. She said, can I come to church with you on Sunday? I went, yeah. And then she walked away, and that was it. And my mates were like absolutely baffled. They were like, do girls come up to you and ask you to come to church often? All the time, guys, all the time. If you could just follow Jesus, I promise you that happens almost daily. And so I was like, no, obviously not. Never. But so she came to church, and this kind of started this journey where somebody had been to church before, and she just started to feel that God was on her case, and she hadn't been to church for ages, and she just knew there was a God out there, and she was like, who do I know as a Christian? And you know what? God will be working on the hearts of people more than we will know, and what they need to know is who's there that they can talk to, who's there that they can just say, hey, like, this is going on in my life, and I don't know why, but I want to talk to you about it. And it might not be about, are you a Christian? It might just be that people start sharing rough stuff that they go with. People start just sharing what's going on in their life. Not because you're an expert, but because they just see something different in who you are and the way that you are. And you know what, like, we stand there, and I wish I could kind of stand with better stories and, you know, say I was great at this, and let me tell you 50 stories of people that I've saved with, you know, like, but it's difficult because, you know, like, that happened with Tori. She came to church. We had a great couple of years after that at uni. And then I went and did a gap year in a church in Widnes. And at the end of that gap year, we did a lot of kind of outreach stuff where we'd go into kind of tough communities on a bus, telling them about Jesus. And it was good. And then at the end, we did this mission in Spain. And I kind of just had a 5-a-side football goal, and I just was doing a penalty shootout competition. And I would just talk to these two lads all week called Pablo and Oswe. And I would just talk to them, but it would just be about football and what they're doing and where they lived and all that kind of stuff. And I find it really hard to just kind of say, I need to tell them about God, but I don't know how. And that week rolled on, and it was the last night, and I was like, oh man, I've just told nothing about this hope in me. And all I said to them was at the end was, do you want to come to church on Sunday? And they went, no, we can't. We're going to a bullfight, because they were a Spanish stereotype. And so I was like, who goes to a bullfight? I was like, 14, but that's not the point. And I was like, what a weird thing. And they went, no, we're going to this bullfight. And I went, all right, okay. And that was it. That was my conversation. And I was like, Dale, you are such a failure. And I was like, it literally just killed me, because I was like, you are so rubbish at this. You've done a whole gap year of this, and you still can't do it. And for some reason, I went back, and all of these people were celebrating this great mission in Spain from the church, and I was like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be with any of these people, because you might have had a great mission, but I can't even tell people about Jesus, and I've just done a gap year, and this is rubbish. So I sent Lucas an email. Lucas was at the church at the time. And I sent Lucas an email just saying, look, I'm moving to Liverpool next year. I'm just going to quit. I made an excuse saying, I want to go to church in Liverpool, because that makes sense, because, I'll go to church where I live. And I thought, that sounds like a good Christian argument. He's not going to argue with that. But the reason was, I didn't want to go back to that church, because you know what? All I felt was I was a failure. These other people are good at this, and I want to run away, and I want to hide. And it was like God was kind of saying, God, it's almost like God knows what we need. And so I was there just absolutely defeated. And I went home to my parents for the summer, and I was moving to Liverpool, and I was like, I got a job, and I was like, I need to find somewhere to live in Liverpool. So I was looking through all my friends. I was like, who do I know that lives in Liverpool? And it turns out I know one person at the time that lived in Liverpool, and it was Tori from university, that girl who came up and asked me about being a Christian when I was 18. And I sent her a message to say, hey, I'm moving to Liverpool. Do you know anybody who's got space? And she was like, well, I live in a shared house, and we've got some space. And so I ended up moving into her shared house, and she hadn't been to church for that year. And you know what? She needed to be with the same guy who took her to church when she was 18. And I needed the one person that I was able to share my faith with, and that kind of was able to kind of follow God. You know, and God is on the move. He's not kind of oblivious to the things that we need. And we had these great couple of years. But Alan Hewitt last week spoke about negative imagination stealing from us, what we want to do. And as we go to share our faith, it can be so easy to go, well, what if I just bomb out? What if I fail? What if it's not good enough? What if people don't respond well? Let's not ask ourselves those negative what ifs, because the whole story last week was, what about thinking about the big dreams? What about the positive what ifs? What if me sharing my faith with my mates at uni meant that one girl who was lost and in a bad way was able to kind of come back to God and know him again? What if, because I was doing that, she was able to do that? What if me moving to Liverpool was the thing she needed? 2 years later, or 3 years later even, we saw our housemate, a girl called Suri, become a Christian and get baptized. And you know what? That wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of Tori. It's because God has a plan. And you know what? Sometimes we just need to be average, ordinary people who are willing to just at least try stuff and be obedient and go with it. And that takes us to the second point, which is that, that we are not the director, that in a viral moment, it's not about kind of us deciding, right, I want to make this moment viral. We want to make this kind of thing work. And as well as being viral videos, there are also viral things. If you're a little older, you might not be aware of memes, so bear with us. So now, I do youth, right? And our young people who are conspicuous by their absence, some of them are terrible people. I'll just put it out there. I might love them, doesn't mean they're not deeply flawed. And there's a WhatsApp group. We have a few of them. And one of them, Lois Dewar, she's not here. Yeah, I'm flipping right, she's not here. She just started going on. She was obviously very bored. And she started going through a series of Del on a, something rhyming with Del. Del on a bell. Del on a shell. Del on a cell. Del on a carousel. She spelled that wrong. Judge her. Del on a hotel. Del on a bell from, that's niche. I mean, that is niche. That is Del on a bell from, and Del on a gazelle. There we go. Too much time on our hands, some of these young people. Too much time on their hands. Please move on from that slide, Rob. No, you don't have to go back to Del on a bell. Sometimes you open yourself up and you regret it. So unlike those memes, do you know what? It's not about us. The story we tell is not about us. The disciples, when they came back, they say to Jesus, honestly, God did this incredible stuff. People were healed. People responded. And it wasn't about them. It wasn't about how good they were. It wasn't about how they did it. As we just said, God is on the move. And in verse 9 in that Luke 10 passage, it says, tell them that the kingdom of God is here. The kingdom of God is near. And the kingdom of God is coming in this town. And we have to get involved with that. It's not about, God doesn't shake our hands when we become Christians and say, right, you're one of my followers, are you? Right, now go tell everybody, good luck, see you in heaven. He's like, that's not the deal. God is saying like, right, and I want you to love your people around you like I love them. I want you to hear the heart that I have for them. You know, the best evangelism that we could possibly have, I think, is where we just pray to God and say, God, is there anything you want me to share with these people? Is there anything on your heart? And as I was literally writing this, I was thinking about my mate Ian Wright, who's a guy I used to work with, and I moved to Liverpool to get a new job recently, and part of the reason was to connect with some of these guys that I used to work with. And I wrote his name down about somebody that I kind of cared about in these notes. Half an hour after I wrote his name down, he texted me for the first time in probably 3 weeks. He just said, hey, do you want to meet up? And I was like, oh, yeah, I want to meet up. And so we're going to meet up in a week or two now. We were going to meet Thursday, but he couldn't. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to freak him out. And I don't really care anymore. And so I just said, guess what I've just done? And he was like, what? And I said, I've just written your name down about somebody that I care about preaching, blah. And he was like, right, okay. And he's like, so I invited him to church this week. He's not here because he's obviously terrified of me now, but that's fine. Because you know what? He needs to know that God has a plan for him. He needs to know that there's a God there who's calling him out before he even texts me. And so you know what? If that freaks him out at first, that's all right, because God is a big God. And you know what? That can be a little bit scary at times. And so, but these people in my life, they need to know that God's not just an idea of something I believe in. God is a God who loves them and who matters. And, and he is the one who brings things together, and he is the one that kind of changes things. And so Isaiah 61, Jesus quotes this when he starts his ministry. He says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour and the day of vengeance to our God, to comfort those who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and the garment of praise instead of despair. And then he says, they will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendour. They will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will restore the places long devastated and renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations. You know what, it talks in that passage there about kind of bringing justice, bringing joy, bringing peace, bringing deliverance, bringing salvation, bringing the presence of God, bringing peace, bringing comfort. Do you know what? You working hard can't bring those things. We can't just go, do you know what I need to do? I need to work as hard as I can to bring joy and to bring God's presence into that place. You know what? We can do that by being close to God. The world that you've got, the people at your work, the people in your families, they don't need you working hard and being exhausted. They need somebody who's close to God. That is fundamentally what they need to know that God is real. And there's no shortcut to that. There is no hidden kind of mystery to that. We need to be people who know what it is to draw near to God and then speak out of that. Because otherwise we're just going to become salesmen and we're going to become exhausted. We're just going to become people who go, I'm talking about this God, but I'm not really close to him, but I think I know he's real. That is not what people need. They need people who are a little bit weird and say, I've been praying for you today, and I just feel that maybe God was saying this, and that might freak him out. And you know what? We might get it wrong, but so what? One of the freakiest things in the world is to tell your mates that you are praying for them. Not just everybody that I kind of ask if you say, would you like me to pray for this? They always say yes, because people are polite. We're in Britain. People are a polite nation. No one wants to go in that awkward place. But when you just tell them you've been praying for them in general, people are, oh, right. Oh, you don't have to do that. And there was a couple of mates that I said, I've been praying for you, I've decided I was going to pray for you every day this year. And they were like, whoa, what do you say? And they were and I was a bit like, well, I'm not going to tell you first off the bat, my prayer is that you become a Christian, because that'll freak you really. And I said, but the other part of what I was praying is I just wanted God to kind of bless their life, that what they were going through, the difficulties that they would face, and that they would end, that they would not feel heavy all the time, that they would be people who knew what it was to have joy. And you know what? They kind of got emotional, why would you pray that for me? You must have other things to pray for. And you know what? But of course we have a million other things to pray for. But people need to know that there's a God and a Spirit that's out there that cares. And and it's not just about us trying. It's about God having a plan and God being the director. And the final point that we have is the content that makes it viral. It's the message. It's not about us. It's not about, going out. We have to be obedient. We have to trust in God. But you know what? It's the message. It's the story. And the story is not just who you are. The story is a lot bigger than that. Now, this year in July, some of you will know, we are very immature. I regard myself as I have to do youth work, and there's an element there that makes me have to be immature. It's not my fault. I just have to do it. All right, I don't want to. I want to be a grown-up, sensible accountant man. But I just get dragged into these things. And so some of us decided to play. I found this article about these guys as grown-ups who'd played tag every month for like 40 years. And they would tag each other, and they would take flights, and someone would just turn up at their mate's house and just tag him. And so we thought, we're doing that. And so I can't even blame the youth, because I started it in my life group. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and we said, right, there are 4 or 5 of us, and whoever's it at the end of the month, you have to carry a year of shame around you. And that is it. We'll pray for that if you want, but that is what we're going to do. And so we started with 4, and the only rules were you're not allowed to tag people in church or in life group, because we've got important things to do, and you're not allowed to tag back the person that tagged you. Otherwise, it just becomes this, you're it. You have to tag somebody else. And that was it. So we tagged the bride on her wedding day. That's right. That's the standard that we're going for. We are low-quality people. So we started there, and it passed around a little while. And then people started wanting to join in. The young people found out about it, like, can we go in? Yeah, you can come in. But once you're in, you can never leave. And so that is it. Like, you can't just go, oh, you're it. I'm not playing anymore. Oh, no deal. And so that was it. So it kind of just started to just go from person to person. People heard about it and joined in. And then we went to Naturally Supernatural. And so we were there, and so it passed around the campsite, and then I was it. And I thought, well, I don't care. I mean, I have many goals in life. One of them was to not be it at the end of July. That was my deal. 31st of July, I will regard myself as a failure. And so I was it, and I was about to tag somebody, and then I was about to go. And then I was going to leave them because I had to go back to a hotel, do loads of work, and then I was in work the next day. So I was tagging, and one of my young people said, is it just for the older youth, or can I play? I said, no, it's for everyone, Bethan. And so I said, I'll tell you what, to show you how included you are, you're it. I say, and that's because that's the kind of loving guy I am. And so I was like, but don't tell anybody yet. Just wait, and then wait till like 11:30 at night, tag somebody, and then get out of there, and then you're safe, you won't be it. And mainly I said that so I could get out of the way and wouldn't be it, And so what I didn't realize is the young people, as we all know, are a scheming bunch. And they'd all decided that whoever then was tagged, they would not let me leave without me being it. And so whoever was it, they would tag somebody else, and then they would chase me down. And I would try and get to my car, and there'd be young people running down. I was like, no! And they knew they could outrun me. And so they would walk me to my car in a little group. And so as soon as I tag one of them, they'd just pass it around, and you're back it, Del, and then they'd run away, and I was done for. So I thought, I'm going to drive by. I'm going to drive into Naturally Supernatural, out the window, bang, run. And so got to the gate, explained to the woman at the gate, I'm not coming in, I just need to go and tag some people. It's a weird explanation. And the woman was like, yeah, I know. I was like, what? She was like, he's told me. Toby Prest stood at the gate smugly. He's told her what I'm doing. And he's like, don't let him in. And I was like, Toby, you are a genius. Not always a well-used genius, but you are a genius. I thought, I can't beat him. So I went back to my hotel and accepted that I was going to be it for the year. And then I realized that is not who I am. So I got in the car and I drove back to Warrington. A bunch of people who did not know that I was it. And I drove back and I knocked on Andy Wright's door. And Andy Wright answered the door, shirtless. Don't know why that was, but that was weird. And so irrelevant, but it shocked me. And so I tagged Andy Wright and ran to the car, locked my doors, drove off. Within a minute, Beth had texted me, if he tags me, I will destroy him. In capitals, no messing. And then chaos. It was like someone had lit a fire in Warrington. Andy was like, what, is this the final day? He ran and tagged Sophie, who'd recovered from an operation that day. And so, it is low. And so Sophie was then upset. Callum, being a good husband, took the tag, tried to chase Andy down the street, couldn't catch him. Callum goes and tags his brother-in-law, and then we went to lockdown. I went to my office, because everybody has keys to my house, and so I went to my office, I genuinely barricaded myself in, and I thought, I had a bottle, I thought, if I need to wee, I am set. I am not leaving, because if someone gets into my house, they cannot get into this room. I am solid. And Beth was texting me, she was like, you have brought a plague upon our town. And so she was genuinely terrified. She needed a little bit of counseling. And the thing is that passed from person to person. It started with 4, and before we knew it, 15, 20 people were involved. But the weird thing is, as that was going on, I never told anybody outside the church, because I thought they're going to find this weird. And so it just stayed within our group. And so often we can do that in church, that we can have this exciting thing where we go to church, we go to Naturally Supernatural, we go to Soul Survivor, and it's exciting, and we keep it within our walls. We keep it within what we do, and we think, I cannot preach, I cannot say, hey, let me tell you about what God did this week, because it's too weird and it's too difficult. You know what? But the world need to know our story. They need to know the story of who we are, and they need to know the bigger story that they have a part in God's plan. You know, and we have to be people who share that story. Don't wait for the perfect time. The first time I took Tori to church, like, you know, you take someone to church and you're thinking, please don't do anything weird. You know, churches can be weird at times, and you know, you want to send a memo around, can just everyone be normal? I've got a girl who doesn't come to church. Please don't do anything weird. Within the worship, after 20 minutes, some guy just started going, fire, fire. And I was like, oh, why? We didn't get the message. And so she just turns to me and she's like, Del, can we leave? So of course we can leave, because this is weird. And so I was like, it's the first time she's been in church, she's never going to come again. You know, and so it wasn't a perfect time. But you know what? God was on her case. And she said, I'm going to come again to a different church, though. I was like, valid. And so, you know what? Like, God is bigger than the perfect day, the perfect week. And you think, oh, I invited that person to that event, they didn't come. Well, invite them to an event, you know, that doesn't look like the perfect one, because God is bigger than your idea of a perfect event. You know, God has a plan that's more than that. And to finish off, you know, we could kind of think, how do we do it? Like, how do we share this gospel? You know, and like, there's a million different ways. You could join a project. So, band are going to come up in a second, so be ready. You can join we have a load of good projects in this church. Like, you could go with Pete as he visits people in CAP. You know, and really talk about bringing freedom to them in terms of debt, but also spiritually. You could join the River Cafe, which is genuinely amazing. If you are ever free on a Thursday, you should go to River Cafe. It's great, just an opportunity for that community that we love, just to come in, sit down, have people just talk to them and see how life is. And there's loads of other things you can partner with. Eden stuff, community meal stuff, other outreaches, the Vine, street pastors, there's a load. And if you don't do a regular outreach kind of activity, it's a good thing to do. It is, because it helps you share your faith in your own life, because you can join a project, and I think that's a great thing to do. But you know what? It's not just about a project, because there are people in your life that are not a project. Like, no one in your life is a project. Like, I hear in church sometimes, like, oh, I'm praying for so-and-so, that person's my project right now. And like, it makes me just furious, because like, that person is not your project. The last thing they need to know is that that's how you're thinking of them. Like, they need to, like, that is a person with problems and fears and hopes and dreams. They have gone through all kinds of stuff, and they need to know that they're loved. They don't need to know that somebody's trying to pull them into church on their team. They need to know there's a God who actually cares for them. You know, there's a great verse in the Bible about evangelism, and for me, it sums up what I try and do. It's like, and it was a guy, he mentioned it to me 15 years ago, and he was preaching a story about a woman who washed Jesus' feet. And he said, but the thing is, in that story, it says, at the start of the story, it says, Jesus was in the home of Simon the leper. And he said, you can just miss it. And he said, but the thing is, and everyone skips past it because the story's not that. And he said, but Jesus put himself in another person's world. And he said, and that's it. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to see the people around him. And he says, what do they care about? What matters to them? I want to put myself in their world. And you know what? If I put myself in their world, they'll see I care. And if they see I care, then maybe they'll start to realize that God cares. You know, not because we're sharing a message, not because we've got something to do, but because these people matter and we're going to put ourselves in their world. And so I'm going to pray, and then I want you to do something before the band come up and play again. So I want you to think about somebody in your life, family member, work colleague, somebody you know, whatever it is that doesn't know Jesus. And then I'm going to want you to talk to the person next to you. Ooh, I know, we've not come for that. We've come to listen to a guy on a microphone. So I want you to just share that name. And then as the guys start playing, before a song comes in, just for a minute or two, I want you to pray with each other, just about for that person, and just for courage and boldness, that we would know what it is to share something with that person. We would know what it is to really just call out to God for that person and say, God, will you speak to me? Will you speak to me about them? Will you say something to them? Okay, so I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to get you to share that with those people. So, yeah, God, will you just help us? We know that you love this world and you love people more than we love people, more than we love this world. And so, God, I just pray that you would help us to be people of courage, that we would go when you've told us to go, but we would go in your strength and your power. And ultimately, God, we would point them to a bigger story, the story of how much they matter to you, and of a God who loves them so much that he would send his son to die for them. Yeah, help us to communicate that, we pray. Amen. Right. So